Okay, this is our daily study of Pirkei Avot, the Mishnah Ethics of the Fathers, in honor of those who have yard site for tonight, the 22nd of Av. Dorothy Fuchsman, Sidney Koffler, whose Hebrew name was Shmuel ben Shlomo Zalman, Mesa ben Kogan, Gunther Kretschmer, Peyton Scher, Max Silberg, David Spack, and Jacob Test. May their memory be for a blessing. A link to the text of the Mishnah will be in the first comment below. We are at chapter 6, Mishnah 2. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. B'chol yom v'yom bas kol yotzeis mehar chorev v'machresas v'omeres oy lahem labrios me'elbona shel Torah. Shekol mi she'eno osek b'Torah nikra nazuf shenemar nezem zahav ba'af chazir isha yafa v'saras ta'am v'omer v'haluchos mas Elohim hema v'michtav Elohim hu charus al haluchos al tikr charus el cherus she'en lach ben choran el mi she'osek b'salmud Torah v'chol mi she'osek b'Torah sadir hareze misaleh shenemar u'mimatana nachliel u'minachaliel bamos. Okay. So in English, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, "Every day a heavenly voice goes forth from Mount Chorev, that's Mount Sinai, proclaiming and saying, 'Woe to mankind for their disdain of the Torah. For he who does not occupy himself with the Torah is called rebuked,' as it says in Proverbs, 'As a golden ring in the snout of a swine, so is a fair woman without discretion.' And it says in Exodus, 'And the tablets were the work of God, and the writing was the writing of God, graven upon the tablets. Read not graven, charut, but freedom, cherut. For no person is free but he who occupies himself with the study of Torah, and one who devotes himself regularly to the study of Torah shall be exalted, as it is written in Numbers, and from Matanat to Nachliel, and from Nachliel to Bamot.'" Okay, so let's unpack this. The Mishnahs in chapter 6 are all about the greatness of Torah, and they're all a little bit longer than we've been used to. So, starting at the beginning, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, "Every day a heavenly voice goes forth from Mount Chorev." So, this is sort of the more poetic name for Mount Sinai. For some reason, Chorev probably means parched. It speaks to the desert. Sinai probably comes from Sneh, the bush, the mountain of the burning bush, and Chorev means the parched, empty mountain. Which connects to the idea that to receive the Torah, you have to make yourself, this is what the rabbis say in the Midrash, sort of empty of all preconceived notions, just like the desert is. Okay. But every day, so this is a more poetic name for it, Mount Chorev, and you can hear a heavenly voice at Mount Sinai saying, "Woe to mankind for their disdain of the Torah." Right? Because God is saying, "I gave my revelation at this mountain, and people don't study it enough." You know, it's like a typical Jewish parent complaining. For he does not, as it were, for he who does not occupy himself with the Torah is called rebuked. And then there's a quote from Proverbs, "Like a golden ring in the snout of a swine." Wow. So like a pig, you know, it's funny. A lot of these Mishnahs have some kind of English counterpart, popular idiomatic counterpart. So the counterpart to this is lipstick on a pig. You could put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. So here it's a golden ring in the snout of a pig. That's like a fair woman without discretion. So the fair woman is like the golden ring, but meaning her beauty is like the golden ring, but her character is like the swine. So kind of insulting. But that's also like the Jewish people is like the woman in this, who you have this beautiful thing, the Torah, and if you don't use it, it's sort of like a golden ring in the snout of a swine. Very strong words. And then it quotes from Exodus that the writing was on the tablets, charut, but if you revowelize it, it says cherut, not graven onto the tablets, but freedom is on the tablets. Cherut means freedom. Okay, so right, so the Jewish underground group headed by Yitzchak Shamir was called the Lechi, which stood for Lochmei Cherut Yisrael, fighters for the freedom of Israel. So there's the word Cherut. This is the beauty of Hebrew, is that there are no vowels, and so the rabbis are always able to play with the words and revowelize them, and that's the genius of the Hebrew language and of the Torah, is that it's encoded with so many layers of meaning. That's embodied by the fact that there are no vowels, and you can play with the words a little more. Indeed, God intended it that way. So, for no man is free but he who occupies himself with the study of Torah. So that's a really profound theological statement that I like to discuss, because it's the opposite of modern assumptions. You're not free unless you have Torah. That's counterintuitive. We generally assume that freedom means not being bound by anything. The laws of the Torah really tell you what to do. You know, you have to rest on Shabbat. You can't eat this. You can eat this. It regulates your behavior. But the Mishnah is saying that's actually true freedom, is to have some purpose and boundaries in life and meaning. because being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, is not freedom. That actually leads to anxiety. So, classic example is, you go to the supermarket nowadays, and there's 13 different varieties of orange juice, and they say that in our modern times we have more anxiety than anyone ever had because we have too many choices, we have too much freedom, and that isn't really freedom. Oh my God, which kind of orange juice should I buy? It's kind of easier when you have one brand, and that's, the choice is made for you. Young people, they're told they could be anything they want. The world is open to them, and that also creates anxiety. What career path should I choose? It was a happy medium between that and growing up and being told you're going to work in a mine for the rest of your life, right? But the point is, having some sort of regulation is true freedom. So only when you study the Torah do you have that kind of constraint, which is real freedom. A very important theological point. Okay, and then it says, "For he who devotes himself regularly to the study of Torah shall be exalted, as it is written." And here's another homily. It says in Numbers, it's talking about the places where the Jews traveled in the desert. So it says they traveled from a place called Matanah to Nachliel and Nachliel to Bamot. But the meaning of those words is Matanah means a present, Nachliel means the heritage of God, and Bamot means heights. So the encoded meaning of this is first they got the gift from God of revelation of the Torah, then they became Nachliel, the heritage of God, and then they went to Bamot, which means to go higher and higher, and that's how you go higher through the Torah. So beautiful homily interpretation. Okay, we can say the El Maleh. Once again, I have one Hebrew name, Shmuel ben Shlomo Zalman. El Maleh Rachamim Shochen Bamerom Im Hamitzei Menucha Nechon Al Kanfei HaShechina B'Malos Kedoshim Tahorim Kazar Harakia Mazhirim Es Nishmas Shmuel Es Nishmas Shmuel ben Shlomo Zalman. Yes, kalas karos shalalayla shahalach liolamam ba'avur shem nispalim ban haskaras nishmasam began eden tehem menuchasam lachein balarachmim yastireim b'seiser kenafav liolamim yitzror b'tzorachayim es nishmasam Adonai unachlasam yanuchu b'shalom mishkavosam and omar amen. And in English, O God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant proper rest on the wings of the divine presence in the lofty levels of the holy and pure, who shine like the glow of the firmament, for the souls of Shmuel ben Shlomo Zalman, Sidney Koffler, and Dorothy Fuchsman, Massia Ben Kogan, Gunther Kretschmer, Peyton Scher, Max Silberg, David Spack, and Jacob Test, in whose memory we study and pray. May their resting place be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore may the Master of Mercy shelter them in the shelter of his wings for eternity. May he bind their soul in the bond of life. Hashem is their heritage. May they rest in peace. And let us say Amen.